What's going on, everybody? Retroactive podcast back here again. We got our special guest today. You probably know him as Shute from Vision Quest, Mr. Frank Jasper. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Levi. How are you, man?
Pretty well. So, what made you want to get involved, with wrestling? And did you have wrestling experience prior to Vision Quest?
So, I had never been exposed to wrestling until I became a freshman in high school. We lived in a very small town, northern Idaho, and there was only 555 people in the entire town. So they had just the basic sports there, which was football, basketball, and track.
Yeah.
Um, so when I moved to Coeur d'Alene was my first time that I even knew that there was a wrestling sport.
Yeah.
I turned out for football my freshman year. I was so small. I got to tell you, I was the second smallest kid on the football team at about 110 pounds. Um, and so it's like I kind of bounced around quite a bit there on the football team. Being the smallest guy, you just pretty much get run over.
Yeah.
But the wrestling coach had dropped by and watched the practice, and he said he was always looking for those lighter weights to fill in those lighter weights. So one of the guys that was on the football team says, "Hey, the wrestling coach wants you to turn out for wrestling." It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'll just turn out for wrestling." And that was how I got started into it. And so I wrestled for about 3 years. And my senior year, I didn't wrestle. I actually went with the college tennis team to Spokane, Washington during that winter cycle, and we trained indoors. And I ended up getting a tennis scholarship, believe it or not, to North Idaho College. So
Yeah.
that was that exposure. And then I actually went and worked as an iron worker for 4 years. And while I was in the Tri Cities, a friend of my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, he was wrestling on scholarship for Pasco
Yeah.
College there in the Tri Cities, and he didn't have anybody his weight. So he said, "Please come train with us." So then I got to train the entire season with the wrestling team there at Pasco.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was my last time that I wrestled before getting the role in Vision Quest.
Yeah. So, speaking of Spokane, did they actually shoot Vision Quest in Spokane, Washington?
Just about all of the filming was done in Spokane and the surrounding areas. When we filmed for 10 weeks, then there was a break of 3 months. Then I got called back and they said, "We want one more scene." And
Yeah.
so I flew to LA, and so we shot a scene or two in LA. Then I went back to school. 3 months later, I got another call. "Hey,
Yeah.
we need to do another scene."
Yeah.
And so then I flew to LA once more. And so that was 10 weeks, wait 3 months, 1 week, wait 3 months, 1 week. And then it was almost an entire year since the beginning of filming that then it was edited and then
Yeah.
released February of 1985.
Yeah, so did y'all film so you said it's 85, was that in 83 or 84 when you guys filmed that?
That was in 83, 84, because I was had finished there at Eastern Washington about 83.
Yeah. So do you remember like how they had to choreograph, your matches in the movie?
Do I remember? Well, listen, I was a part of it. So before we came to the big, final wrestling match,
Yeah.
they gave Cash Stone and myself and another kid the job of choreographing the final match.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was the three of us that came up with the choreography there, and then the director would say, "Hey, I really like that, so let's do more of that."
Yeah.
And so we created this whole concept, and doing the head and arm out of bounds, and I tried to give as many different looks as we could, so you can see all aspects of wrestling, from stand ups and sit outs to reverses and takedowns and duck unders and things like that. So
Yeah.
we tried to keep it realistic as well.
So were you one of the few actual, wrestlers on the film?
Um, in the actors area, sorry, my chair seems to be making a lot of noise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the actors go, the main actors, Michael Schofling had a wrestling background. He was actually on a scholarship at a college level. He won like the junior nationals, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was a really good wrestler, period. Now, every one of those extras that you see are
Yeah.
all, ex-wrestlers. So everybody on Matthew's team was part of either Meade or Rogers High School wrestling team. And so they
Yeah.
all came back. And so you're looking at just really top line wrestlers there. You can check. There's a lot of them that have, cauliflower ear, so you can tell
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah. So yeah, what was it like to work with like people like Matthew Modine, Forrest Whitaker, people like that?
Yeah, Forrest had he had a small role,
Yeah.
and I had a chance to talk to him just a little bit, and it was just before his career took off.
Yeah. One of those.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then there was kind of a lull, and so he had this small role in Vision Quest. While we were filming it, he said like, "Oh, I just did this audition, and I think it went really well." And it was for his role in Color of Money.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw that role, but he
I've heard
had
about it.
just a really cool role where he was sharking. What was his name? Besides Tom Cruise, what was the other character in that?
I have no clue.
Okay, so it was so he sharked the main character in the movie, and
Yeah.
he came off so well in that movie that I think I just kicked his career off from that point on, and he's just gone crazy ever since. Matthew, sweet, great guy. He's I was kind of kept separate from everybody. Meaning,
Yeah.
I wasn't really with the wrestlers because I had dialogue, so I had my own trailer on the lot. So I had my own little trailer, but I wasn't really an actor. So the actors sort of looked at me like, "Oh, well, here's this wrestler that's doing this role." So I was kind of not in that group either. So I was somewhat isolated, which I think paid off for the character because he's just single-minded and he does his thing, and so I think that actually worked out really well in the end result.
Yeah. So with a lot of these, reboots and stuff like that, if there was ever like some type of TV series or movie of Vision Quest, would you be open to, reprising your role for that?
So I don't know that I'll reprise my role as like right after that movie was done. So I would have to do something like what they did with Cobra Kai, where they have the older actors now, and then they have kids.
Yeah.
And I absolutely could see that happening. And it's a really powerful time now for the 80s and 80s, all things retro. I think it's really cool. It'd be a time to get to release something like this that's related to it. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what was your audition process like for Vision Quest?
So how I got it was I was an athlete. So I went to Eastern Washington University, which is just outside of Spokane. They were filming in Spokane, and they were all in their practices and everything in Spokane. And so one of the wrestlers that was already as an extra and a background in the movie was a wrestler at Eastern Washington, but he took that semester off or that season off because he was working in the movie. And they were paying really good money. This is like, somebody who's going to college, paying their way through college. This is like a dream. They get to wrestle and they get paid for it. So he came into the wrestling room and to watch the other guys wrestle. He wasn't working in the film at the time. And he started talking about the film. And at one point he says, they're still looking for somebody. 6 foot tall, muscular build, that can wrestle. He goes, that's you. You got to do this. And I'm like, no, I have never done any acting before. I have no idea. But he says, no. I'll talk to the casting director. She's really cool. So I agreed. I called her up. I went in for an audition. Now, I thought, like, okay, I'm paying for my own education as well. This would be a great way for me to make some extra money to pay for my education and see how a movie gets made.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what role I was going in for. I didn't know he even had lines. So when I walked into this audition, casting director hands me sides, which are lines for, you know, somebody that speaks in the movie. She goes, okay, take a look at this and we'll go over it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Rip Thiefall was the guy that told me about this. He never even mentioned there was any lines that I would have to memorize or anything.
Yeah.
I thought it was just gonna be in the background or just running around with some people. So I was a little shocked. I read with her a couple of times. One point I made a mistake because I was nervous.
Oh yeah.
She looks at me and she goes, we're looking for intensity here. If you make a mistake, go on as if nothing else happened. Got it? Oh, okay. Well, they're serious about this. So I read the lines with her. She goes, okay. She calls the director up. We go over to his office. And he looks at me and he goes, okay. He takes the sides out of my hand. He goes, you know the lines now. And I just read them like twice with the casting director. So how do you memorize them? But for some reason, I got through it. I just like thought, okay, he's right. I know these. Somehow, and I don't even know how it happened, but we got through that audition. Then I had to go wrestle for Coach Cash Stone because he had to see if I could wrestle. Then I had another audition where I had to come back to them and I shaved my mustache to see if I looked young enough. Because I was 26. So was Matthew, by the way. Linda Fiorentino was 27.
Wow, yeah.
I shaved my mustache and I go, yeah. Then I find out that the casting director from LA and the producers, John Peters and Peter Goober, found a kid in LA. And so they're flying him to Spokane. And they like this kid. They've seen this kid. He's an actor. He's a wrestler. He's a good athlete. And the director likes me. And so I had to go in. They flew him in. I had to read for and meet the producers and the casting director. And then I had to do the scene for them. So the casting director was sitting in the front in the room. And the producers were sitting in the back. But before I even walked into the room, this is what Harold did. Harold Becker was the director.
Yeah.
So we came over to do the scene. He came out of his office and he came up to me and he goes, okay, we're looking for intensity here. When you come into this room, I want you to stay into character and not change no matter what. Got it? And he goes, smack. And he hits me in the side of the face. He goes, smack. And it's like, you know, like just like before a match, you know, if your coach smacks you to get you like really focused. So he walks back in there. I come in there. I do my scene. I'm all like tough and I'm just doing the scene. And I walked out with my casting director and I said, God, did I look ridiculous? She goes, no, why? She says, oh, well, the casting director, every time I did a line, she was like looking at me like, geez, this guy just can't even get these right or something like she was just shaking her head almost. But see, everybody was behind her, so they couldn't see what she was doing. And I said, she just kept looking at me like I wasn't doing this right. And she goes, no, she was trying to trip you up. She's bringing a character from, you know, somebody she's cast from LA. And so she wants her guy to get the role. Like, wow. So this is like game on.
Yeah.
So we did our scene. And then because the wrestling coach, Cash Stone, hadn't seen this kid wrestle, we had the set where they had a mat set up there and it was all lit up and the cast and crew were shooting over in this location. So everybody stopped and the cast and crew surrounded the mat. And I got on the mat with this kid whose name was Frank Zagarino from LA. And Cash Stone would go, okay, single leg, double leg, duck under, you know, slide by. And he just went bam, bam, bam. We just went back and forth. And then we finished. He was, okay, I'm happy. This kid can wrestle. He's got what it takes. And then we waited for about 5-10 minutes. And John Peters came up to me and goes, okay, kid, you got the role.
Yeah.
Every time I looked over at you and you were like glaring at me. And I just kept in mind what Harold was saying, like, no matter what, don't change character. Stay in character. So every time John Peters looked over at me, I just like look at him like I wanted to kick his ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you remember which scene that you did for the audition?
So that was the stadium scene.
Okay.
We auditioned for the stadium scene, and that was like, do I know you? You know, that whole
Did they have you like holding something up or just the dialogue?
So what happened was is that I walked in the room and they said, okay, take your shirt off. So I had to like take my shirt off. So I'm standing there with my shirt off and doing these lines with this woman in the front here, trying
Yeah.
to be real tough. So it was awkward. It was weird, but luckily I got the role.
Yeah. So if you don't want to answer this one, I totally understand. But did you weigh 168 in the movie?
I absolutely did not weigh 168.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So
Yeah.
what you have to understand is that besides I was an athletic trainer at Eastern Washington, but I was also a bodybuilder. So I was doing everything I could to gain weight. And so I was at 215 when I got the role. And I had to drop 25 pounds in 2.5 weeks.
Dang.
Which I did. It was a hard cut. And I didn't do it the healthy way. I just did it the hard way and did it the fast way, which was basically starve myself. And I dropped that weight and I was down. And I went in and weighed myself and did a submersion test to check what my percentage of fat was. In the performance lab at Eastern, I was at 4% body fat and I weighed 189 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your favorite scene that you got to film in the movie?
Well, I have to say that the final scene, the final match.
Yeah.
They brought in over 1,500 extras from the surrounding area. And so it felt very much like a match,
Yeah.
And the intensity had to be there as well. So that to me was the culmination of everything. And it was, just really cool to do.
Yeah. So for the bleacher scene, how was that log heavy or did they just have like a prop?
So the log was lightened, so it wasn't as heavy as that log would have been. But like when you shoot something like this, you have to shoot it several times.
Oh yeah.
Down. They do like a long shot. They do close-ups. They do cuts back and forth. So they have to move the camera every time they do that. You have to adjust and you have to redo the scene. What was amazing about that particular scene was that it was a winter's day or a fall day in Spokane, Washington. That was shot at Joe Albee Stadium. And it was cold. The sun was out, but it was incredibly cold. Everybody had parkas on and gloves and stocking hats.
Yeah.
And so I was out there with a log in tank top and shorts.
Everybody else, and then Loudon and Cooch, they got jacket and pants on too. So.
Right. They're wearing jackets. Well, if you look really closely, you'll see like it looks like sweat on my face. Yeah. But it was so cold that they actually had to spray glycerin on my face to make it look like I was sweating.
Yeah. So what was your toughest, like when y'all having to do those matches, we were all having to be careful, like not to slam, too hard, stuff like that?
Yeah. So we did, we did the body slam on Matthew, and the director said, like, do we want to get somebody to stand in for you to do this? And Matthew goes, no, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So we shot it, and I made sure that I threw him just really flat to his back. If you look, he just lands flat. He doesn't land on his side because you can hurt your shoulder. You can do something. But I wanted to look good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to look realistic, so I didn't hold back.
Yeah.
And so the slam happened, and then I walked away, and they said cut, and then Matthew rolled over, and he had knocked the wind out of him.
Yeah.
He rolled over, and he like slowly got up, and he was kind of like trying to get centered back. I probably saw some stars. But he was a real champ to do that and take the hit. So he had a pretty good experience of what it takes sometimes and what some somewhat hard throw might feel like.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you did or not, but did you get to meet Madonna?
I didn't, So when you're filming, you're only on set for your scene.
Yeah.
And they were filming in a bar at night. And I wasn't, a part of that shoot at all. So I did not get to meet her. But I mean, it's amazing. Her career took off. This was her first role.
Yeah.
Crazy for You was probably her first hit. It was written by a friend of mine named John Bettis, and I think he wrote it with another man as well. But that Crazy for You just took off. It was a great theme song for the movie, and it just so much kind of nailed the role, the character of anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it like filming the weigh-in scene right before the big match?
So that was one that they had to redo. So
Yeah.
what I shared with you is that I dropped 25 pounds in 2.5 weeks. We shot for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I went back to bodybuilding. And I pumped up. I got back up to 217. So I'm sitting at 217 3 months later. That's when I get that next call.
Yeah.
And so I had a whole month to drop. So I dropped 35 pounds or something like that in a month.
Yeah.
And I came and shot that scene in LA. So if you look at Matthew, he looks really skinny too. His clavicles are sticking up because it's been 3 months since he was had done Vision Quest. And
Yeah.
for the movie, he was taking supplements. He was working out. He was doing everything to kind of build up. And I was doing just the opposite. I was cutting weight. I was doing everything that his character was doing
in the movie. Yeah. Yeah. So what was the best part of being a part of the movie? Like for you being a former wrestler, what was it like to be in now like pretty much the best wrestling movie there is?
Well, it's impacted generation after generation. We're into about the fourth generation, and it instills or inspires them to be the best wrestler they can be.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many. I'll mention a kid that I've been working with for a while now, Nick Siriano. He and his family flew out to LA. I have a practice. I'm an acupuncturist. I have a master's in Oriental medicine, and my wife and I have had a practice for over 25 years in Pacific Palisades. And he came to Los Angeles and came in for an acupuncture treatment, and we talked about certain nutritional things and got him set up on a really great protocols. And he said that growing up, his dad played Vision Quest almost weekly, if not nightly. Yeah. And so it had a big impact. And now here's this kid that just, won the NCAA, for Rutgers. He just made history. He's the first national champion for Rutgers.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you heard, but he was headed to Olympic trials, and he got COVID.
Yeah.
So he was out, but anyway, my point being is that it inspired him, to be the best wrestler, and those are the kind of stories I love to hear. That sometimes it was military guys that said, "Yeah, this got me through, my stint in Afghanistan, or when I was in Iraq. This is what got me through." And it's like, wow, I just am so honored to be a part of that. Every time a kid comes up and is saying that this is why they're a wrestler, I'm just like, this is fantastic. I love being part of it. It's such a positive message out there. I don't know, some characters, they made them like really bad, but for my character, they just made him, he's focused. This is his thing. He's not out there to hurt people. He's out there to do his job, and nobody's going to take away his title. And that's the mentality I think we all need to have. Like, we can be friends off the mat, but when we're on the mat, it's go time. And it's like, I'm just a little different. I'm a little bit more intense. I'm a little bit more aggressive, maybe even a little bit mean.
Yeah.
And then when you step off the mat, you can let go of that, Yeah.
Is there any deleted scenes, anything that got cut out that you can remember shooting?
No, I don't, because it was, such a long process, and I didn't get to see everything that was shot, so I don't know what they edited out.
Yeah. So for you, you came in kind of toward, a little later in the movie. Were they already shooting when you started filming your stuff?
So when I got cast, they were just 2.5 weeks away from starting the filming. So they were under a tremendous amount of pressure to find the character.
Yeah.
I had found out that they cast this role twice before. Neither one of those guys worked out.
Yeah.
And so it was go time. They just happened, to find me. We just happened to make that. So it's like 1,000,001 chance that I'm out there at Eastern Washington, as an athletic trainer for the wrestling team, and this guy walks in that was in the movie.
Yeah, so was there any other backstory on your character other than, he was like a really good wrestler and anything like that?
So this is something I'm working on right now. Is that I'm writing the backstory of why Shute actually lost that match. I mean, he's a 2-time state champion, and he's going to lose to somebody who's only been wrestling a year. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Backstory. And I think that he actually had some kind of major trauma right before that, some real traumatic event in his family that then when he stepped on the mat, he was devastated, and so he wasn't at capacity.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why he lost that match, and so we want to go back and explore that perhaps.
Yeah. So speaking about how you had to cut all that weight in a short amount of time, what's your advice, for people cutting weight?
Wow. Okay, so I do what's called a nutritional podcast. I do like it's between 3 and 7 minutes long. I do one a week. It's being released by Competitive Ed, so you can go there and get that. It's on Instagram there, but it's also on Facebook. You can go to my site and get it as well. Shute at shuteshirts.com, or just look up Frank Jasper on Facebook, and you can get it in my feed.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do, if I have any impact on wrestling going forward, my thing is that I want to teach kids, high school kids, grade school kids, even college kids, that if they're interested, that there's a right way and a wrong way to cut weight. And really the old thinking of cutting hard and cutting deep and dehydrating and over exercising prior to some matches, just absolutely irresponsible. It doesn't prep you. You're not at your optimal level. I can't tell you how many people said, yeah, I did such a hard cut. I just got out of the mat. I had no energy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. If you dehydrate the body, that's the first thing that goes is your endurance. And then if you starve the body, then you really don't have any kind of reserve to call upon. And if you're over exercising to make that extra weight, you're going to be exhausted before you even step out of the mat. So how are you going to do that at a tournament? Like, kids do it all the time, but do you think they're really at their best? I don't. Yeah. I think it just makes no sense to starve yourself, dehydrate yourself, and overtrain prior to going into a match. My belief is, think about what you want to go, where you want to go pre-season. Start 2 months out. And I tell people, like, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to take all the junk food. You take the white food, the junk food, the sugar, dairy. You take all all the white foods, pro-inflammatory food out of your diet. Really cut back on the carbohydrates. You only need just a little bit.
Yeah.
Eat primarily proteins and vegetables, and just have a very light meal at night before you go to bed. Have some healthy fats. That all really kind of plays together. And you can get to the point where you are below weight 2 weeks. You want to be stabilized 2 weeks before your first match. That's the intent. And you want to be below that weight so that you can eat something in the morning. I say eat or drink into every match.
Yeah.
You're fully stocked. You got your 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. You're hydrated properly. You have the nutrition that you've, stoked your body with. You can carb load if you want, but I find that too many carbs will kind of like spike your energy and then you crash.
Yeah.
So I like to teach people how to have the ketogenic pathway as a functioning, not just a glycogenic pathway.
Yeah.
Because ketogenic is much more even, it lasts longer, and the byproducts are not toxic. Whereas, glycogenic, which is the sugars and carbs, can spike and crash real easy, and then the byproducts are hard to deal with. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in doing it right, doing it in a progression, dropping that weight, stabilizing, not yo-yoing up and down all through the season.
Yeah.
That sets people up for all sorts of, endocrine issues, kidney issues, weight issues, eating disorder issues. High blood pressure. When you start to talk to the old wrestlers, you really kind of get a sense of the damage that they did when they were doing these hard cuts that weren't good for your health.
Yeah. So have you spoke or, talked to anyone, since Vision Quest, any of the cast?
Yeah, I ran into Matthew Modine and his wife a couple of times in LA. Then we did a 30-year anniversary, and Matthew was filming, and his wife came, and the director was there, and then Harold, the math or the English teacher,
Yeah.
Harold Sylvester was there as well. So I got a chance to kind of hang out with those guys at that time, and but I talked to Gary Jasper. Actually, Gary and I worked at Universal Studios for a year or so on the Conan show together.
Yeah.
So the guy that played Otto in the
Yeah.
movie, he was the heavyweight wrestler on Matthew's team.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I've just run into him. I stay in touch with Gary, and I kind of try and stay in touch loosely with Matthew, but not directly.
Yeah. So did you get to keep like any props from the movie?
I still have my sweats. I still have the
Yeah.
sweats, the T-shirt that I wore. I had the jacket, but I was training at Gold's Gym and somebody stole it while I was there. I was devastated.
Dang.
That was the coolest jacket, man.
They didn't let you keep the singlet.
Um, you know what? I've got the Hoover singlets, and I've got the Thompson High singlets, the retro ones.
Yeah.
From Supreme Singlets, they ordered those, and so I have copies of the exact thing that I wore in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was has there been any, like one story that, you've heard from someone that's seen it that just, was like, wow, what an impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's over the last 30 plus years, I've had just really positive impact into the wrestling community, and people as like even Jordan Burroughs, who I didn't think would have any kind of awareness of it, but
Yeah.
he talked about it. He says, "Yeah, you created history, Frank," and so that's what we're doing. We're creating history, and I was like, "Wow, this actually." And these guys are our international representatives, so
Yeah.
the fact that they know about it, that they've watched it, that it had an impact on their lives, that got them to the point where they're at. It's for me, it's just an honor to be a part of that
Yeah.
and to see that it's been such a positive experience for everybody.
Yeah. So the referee in the final match, was he an actual wrestling referee or was he just an actor?
So that guy's name is Cash Stone. He was the wrestling coach for Meade for years. I do stay in touch with him, by the way.
Yeah.
I checked in with him just a few weeks ago, just before the NCAAs, and we talked.
Yeah.
He's in his 80s now,
Wow.
and he's been wrestling on a mat, kids, and he would have still done it, but COVID has shut everything down. This is the first year in, I don't know, 50, 60 years that he hasn't been on a wrestling mat. But
Yeah.
when I speak with him, he's still sharp as ever.
Yeah.
Nicest guy. I could absolutely see wrestling for this coach. He's just such a positive. He's all about positive motivation.
Yeah. So did you have to get any extra training before filming or did you just, pretty much go off what you already knew?
Well, I did wrestle with the team a bit, but just like that ended really quickly because we were getting ready to film. So my whole focus was I had to drop the weight. So that's what I was doing. So I really didn't wrestle much. I would go train with Eastern Washington's team because I didn't have to drive into Spokane to train with the team.
Yeah.
So I would just train with the wrestlers at Eastern Washington to keep sharp, and it was just all about cutting that weight. Like I said, when I was bodybuilding, I was eating 5 platefuls of food at dinner time.
Dang, yeah. Yeah.
And I would eat 12 eggs. I would try and get 12 eggs in for breakfast. I would start with 6, and I would get pancakes and eggs and bacon. I didn't know what vegetables were back then. I didn't. It was all about protein and carbs.
Yeah.
So, but I went from 5 platefuls of food at night.
Yeah.
Because I would eat at Eastern Washington. I'd eat at their hub, and so I got like this pass, and you could just unlimited food. So
yeah, absolutely.
So when I went to cut, I had breakfast, which was egg whites. I had a lunch, which was just salad, tuna, and a squeeze of lemon.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't eat dinner, and I would get on a stationary bike and ride for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's how I dropped the weight. It was just starve.
Yeah. So what was it like to work on a Freeway Maniac?
That was something that was um, fun because I was a friend of mine actually was the other character, the nemesis in the movie, and he and I also worked up at Universal Studios in Conan. He was a character up there as well, and so I've known him for quite a while. And it was an independent film. It's not a great film. I would not
Yeah.
waste a lot of time watching that. I would say save your screen time for something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you ever see yourself getting back into acting, or is that just something of your past?
You know, I've been in. My wife and I have run this, the Osani Holistic Healthcare for over 25 years. We just shut it. We just closed it last year due to COVID, and so I've moved to Carmel. But I absolutely would like to pick up acting again and get back into it. I loved acting. I didn't care for the business aspect, but I loved the acting part of it, and
Yeah.
I'm looking to maybe get in to do some more. So look for me in the future, man.
Yeah. So do you ever want to coach maybe wrestling or be an official or anything like that?
Well, it's been a few years. Been over 30 years since I really wrestled and kind of know all the things. I did wrestle with the Palisades wrestling team.
Yeah.
I hadn't wrestled in over 30 years, so I went and worked out with them for 2 hours,
Yeah.
and then they watched Vision Quest afterwards, and so I kind of hung out and we kind of talked a little bit. But when I walked out of there, I couldn't move my neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't used my neck, and so we got into one of these matches, and I was bridging with a guy on top of me, and so my neck I couldn't move it. It was like I walked out of there going, "Wow, that was a lot of fun," but I can't move my neck now. And
Yeah.
I separated a rib because we fell, and this guy had his hands clasped like this, and we fell on it, so I separated my rib. So it was wow. It's after not wrestling for 30 years, and you go in and wrestle for 2 hours, it just beat the holy heck out of me. So I did have fun, but it was tough. But yeah, there's a possibility that I'll go and support a team here, when they open back up. Just because I like to roll around on the mat. I like to hang out and work with kids and try and share whatever I can and just be like a support to the coach. So Reggie Roberts is a guy that's coaching here, and he's a friend of mine. And he said, "Yeah, when we get opened up again, maybe we'll get you in there as assistant coach." Like, yeah, let's do this.
Speaking of COVID, what's some TV shows and movies you've watched, during the stay-at-home type of life?
So we watched Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you saw that one, but it was really well done. It was on Netflix, and it was about this chess champion, this girl that was a chess champion, and it's just really well done. So if you get a chance to watch that one, I highly recommend that. I went through the entire series of Cobra Kai because I just had to see it, to see what they did with it, how they handled the characters. I really liked that they didn't make it as black and white as they did for Karate Kid. It was just so dimensional.
Yeah.
And so now they're kind of messing around with the characters. You can see that there's no totally bad, there's always they started doing backstories on all the characters, so you got to understand why they are where they are. They really wove in back and forth between Johnny and Daniel, those two characters, and now they're kind of united at the end. So I think that's something that we could do something like that with Vision Quest as well.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I feel like, there's definitely a big enough fan base for it. So, but yeah,
if you do it right, it can be really good.
Yeah,
that's what it's got. It's got to be done right.
Yeah, Matthew's been on Stranger Things on Netflix, so he has a connection there too. So, anything's possible.
Yeah, it's really going to probably depend on his interest as well.
Yeah, I don't know how interested he'd be in something like that now, but what could you type of see like the storyline possibly being, for something like that?
Well, there's all sorts of possibilities,
Yeah.
but I would imagine that there'll be something that, Matthew and has kids and they're wrestlers, and Shute has kids and they're wrestlers, and
Yeah.
how to get it to be similar to like a Cobra Kai concept, where they interact. They could be friends. They could be adversaries. Who knows? They could be girls. So I
Yeah.
have
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
girls wrestling in there instead of boys. That could be a good twist. There's some great concepts. Storylines are, just you can do almost anything. So
Yeah, I always thought like maybe like you're a coach and he's a coach and y'all have like a big, training everybody for a big match coming up or something like that. But who knows?
oh yeah.
But yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on today. It was great to be able to speak with you.
Listen, Levi, it was great talking with you as well. Good luck in the future. Keep wrestling. I hope you really do well. I hope you don't cut too much weight. I hope you just, wrestle strong and just be very smart about how you take care of yourself through the wrestling sport. And thank you for reaching out to me, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Have a good one.